Income Tax 2020, Practice Problem 1, Presentation 8, Adjustments to Income, Student Loan Interest. We're going to be taking a look at it with the tax equation, which we will do in an Excel worksheet. Come in, relax with Income Tax 2020. Here we are in our Lacerte tax software. We don't need the Lacerte tax software to follow along, although I do believe they have a free 30-day trial. So if you can get access to a promo or demo version of it or any other tax software, it could be a good tool to practice with. In prior presentations, we've been entering the data for our practice problem. In the prior section, we've been entering the data related to the income. Now we're going to be looking at the adjustments to income, the above the line deductions, focusing here in on the student loan interest. Now we enter this information into our tax software, into our form that we can see here, and it's coming from Schedule 1. Now we're going to enter this information into our Excel worksheet, imagining that once again we're going to think about this as if we enter it separately. So we want to think the same. We're going to take the same source documents, enter it separately into the Excel worksheet. This can be a little bit difficult, more difficult when we don't have like the forms that we have with the income side of things. But we want to do it as much as we can so that we can basically double check ourselves with that double entry process. 1 into the software, 2 into the Excel worksheet. And to do so, of course, you need to do it from the source document as much as possible. Now this one, we typically will have the source document, which will be the form 1098E. So we have that here, student loan interest. So we're going to pull that on over. And the only thing we're thinking in terms of the entering it into our Excel formula, notice this is the Excel tax formula that we have here. So we've got the income. We're focusing now on the adjustments to income, the above the line deductions. If I compare that to these form 1040, we have our income line item. All these other items are kind of included in income on the face of the return. And we get to that 8130. Now we're focusing in on this line item, the 1,850, which is supported in a similar way as with our Excel worksheet on a separate sheet, separate schedule. That being Schedule 1 here. For us, we'll have it on a separate Excel sheet. So then we're going to go over here. That's going to be where our focus is. Right now, we have no adjustments. Therefore, the adjusted gross income is the same as the income line, taking the standard deduction and so on. So we're just going to go into our form over here for the adjustments to income. And we're going to be picking up then the student loan interest. Now, the only thought that we have in our mind is, well, if the income gets a little bit high, then it might be the case that we have a phase out that will take place here. So we're looking at the income, we're going, it's probably not to that point yet. So we're probably good. But once the income, if the income goes over a certain threshold, then you got to think, okay, the income's getting kind of high. If that was an individual tax return, by the way, then that might be getting a little high. It might be hitting over the threshold. But a married tax return, probably still okay. So we're going to go over here and just enter our student loan interest, which we said we're taking that from the source document, which is the 1850. That totals up here. That's just going to pull over to the first page of the formula. So there's our income minus the 1850. So now we have the adjusted gross income of the 79,180. We can then test that out and see if it checks out to what's on the tax return. So we got the 79,180. So that looks good. So then we have the standard deduction at the 24,800 because we're not itemizing thus far. The taxable income at the 54,380 then. Let's check that out to the tax return. 54,380, so that looks good. Then I'm going to go to page 2 of the tax return. I'm going to pick up the tax calculation. This is something we will be dependent on the return to do. 5,974. At least I am. 5,974. So you could kind of put that in Excel, do the progressive tax calculation to estimate that. But we're going to pull that from the tax return. And then we had the payments that were from the W-2, 8,000 to get down to that 2026. And that should be our bottom line here, the 2026. So we kind of double check that out in the Excel worksheet.